Hi guys, how are you? So, okay, one thing I think that is super, super important in relationships is the ability to be able to say, I'm sorry, and honey, you were right. Okay, that's just my opinion. As someone who's been a wife, one too many times. But anyway, as somebody who's been a wife, and I think most of us women and wives out there will agree that we love us a man who knows how to say, I'm sorry, honey, you were right. Okay? Now, why do I bring that up? Because I see this time and time and time again. Like when I'm in a store, when I'm out and about and stuff, I promise you I see this all the time. Like I see couples, kind of going back and forth a little bit. And, sometimes it's, like you can, like, I can always tell when a man has either been married for a while or like you can just tell like their marriage is like A-okay. Their relationship is good, right? And I say that because like I can remember my dad and I can remember like my grandpa, some other relationships that, were definitely on solid ground. It was like those men knew how to say, I'm sorry. They also knew how to say, honey, you were right. Okay, and I'm saying that because, like, I think it shows, first of all, it shows a lot of humility in the person that you're dealing with, and you definitely need to have humility to even be married. Now, I know that the women and wives, we are not always right, depending on what woman you're dealing with. Okay, I know that, and that's not what I'm saying. But a lot of good husbands, or a lot of men, or people who've been married for a long time will say, one of the secrets to success is allowing your wife to be right 90% of the time, at least when it comes to things that really don't matter to you much, okay? It's kind of like that whole pick your battles thing. I've talked about that before, learning how to pick your battles in relationships, like what's really, really important to you. Okay, and it really does tone a woman down, or at least calm her down, when your man says, honey, you were right. Honey, you were right. I should have listened to you. Honey, you were right about XYZ. I should have listened to you. This and this and this and this happened, and blah, 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 right? Okay, because why? Actually, to be honest, that actually builds trust in our men. Like, in our man. Why does it build trust? Because we now can trust the fact that he doesn't have too much pride about himself, where he won't, like, it's like he can show that he knows the limit. Like, he knows where the limit is, right? He knows at what point to go ahead and just backtrack, stop, do whatever, do a U-turn or whatever, like, and come back and be like, honey, you were right. And let's go ahead and do XYZ like you said, right? I mean, that actually builds trust. Like, when we know that our man is not too prideful, he is not too arrogant, headstrong, or whatever, or that he's going to go to great lengths to prove that he was right. Like, with the whole directions thing, right? I mean, we see this all the time on TV, right? A man, how he'll just go around in circles and waste all kinds of time because he doesn't want to stop for directions. And usually the woman's like, stop for directions. Of course, now we have GPS. So these days, you know what I'm saying, is a lot different. But it's the same, it's the concept is what I'm talking about. And a good woman is going to also know when to fall back when it's something that's not in her lane. Okay, and when to be like, I don't know, I'm gonna let him take the lead. I don't know, that's him, it's his turn, he needs to take the lead on this. I don't know, right? But the fact of the matter remains, okay, I don't care if you're a Bible reader or not, or if you believe in God or not, right? I don't care. What did God say in the Bible? He said, this is God, okay, perfect God. He said in the Bible, he looked at the man when he made the man, he said, it is not good for the man to be alone. I'm gonna make a helper for you. You need a helper. Okay, so if God said that, in response to looking at perfect Adam, and he still said it's not good for you to be alone. There must have been a reason, right? He wasn't complete, right? And the reason is he created, Eve was to compliment him, right? To compliment him. But that man has to be willing to receive the insight or whatever it is that he feels that his wife or his significant other or his girlfriend brings to the relationship. Like whatever it is, her viewpoint on things. This is why I always say it's really good when it's like opposites attract. Because when it's opposites attract, right? Like as long as you two can agree and as long as you two are not like this at each other all the time, it can make for a really good, well-rounded relationship. Because when one person can bring, this type of a viewpoint and the other person can bring the opposite viewpoint, it makes for one complete pair. That's really good in business too and in relationships, okay? Like when you have, I talked about this before, the DISC, that's the DISC personality. They use that in business a lot. And there's the D is for dominant, I is for influential, S is for steady, and C is for critical thinker, cautious, right? Slow. Anyway, it is really good when you have the two opposites together in a relationship because you do make one complete pair. It's like you can arrive to conclusions in a well-rounded way, or when one person doesn't have a good idea for something, the other person can bring that idea up, right? But besides all that, or, in addition to all that, I was talking with a woman today, actually. We were talking about this, and she was saying how, she's been married for over 30 years, and in the beginning, the first couple of years, she felt like she had to wear her husband out because he was not willing to be like, yes, babe, you were right. And he didn't want to hear I told you so. He did not want to hear I told you so for nothing. He let his pride and his arrogance and everything get in the way. And that created a lot of arguments. And it created a lot of separation between the two. When you think about it, what is the only reason? Why would someone not want to say or hear I told you so? Is it because they have a perception of themselves that either they want to portray or that they think that you see them as? So I'm talking to the men here primarily because most women will literally agree. I kid you not, you can ask them. When a man says, if I have to say I told you so to a man or whatever, and he says, you were right, I should have listened to you. Or, babe, you were right, I should have listened to you, even without me saying I told you so, or whatever. I promise you, that actually builds trust and love and closeness and a bond, actually. It makes us feel not only valuable, but it's like, okay, I can trust that he is not too prideful, too arrogant, and he is not going to go too far over in left field, right field, whatever, before coming to me and, either needing help or whatever it is, right? And vice versa, Now, me personally, having been married, and also just me from learning from experience, and having to hear I told you so a million times from, my mother and my previous husbands and stuff like that, right? For different things. I find personally that it is just much better to jump that hurdle quicker and to go ahead and, if you're going to be in a relationship, you need to let go of all, what do you call that? Pride and arrogance and selfishness and preconceived ideas of what you think you should look like or how you should be. Okay? Because you need to let all that go. Because you cannot control anyone, much less your spouse's outlook on how people view you. It's like me, for example, right? I'll use me as an example. Some people love me, some people hate me. Either way, neither one is my concern. If you hate me, okay, great. If you love me, okay, great. Either way, I am like not going to change who I, like either way I am who I am, right? And I mean, it's easier if you go on ahead and just not be in my way. If you hate me, like just don't be near me. Okay. But in other words, either way, no matter how you look at me or what you think about me or your opinion is of me, it doesn't change really one bit of what I'm going to do that day, unless I assign you value of the opinion that you have of me, unless I value you enough that I care about your opinion. And again, when we think about it, there's very few people that we really care that much about the opinion they have of us, right? But let's say I do care about your opinion. You know, if you are my spouse or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, you know, like boyfriend or whatever, like significant other. Okay, in that case, it is better to just go on ahead and get past the I told you so's or the honeys, you're right or whatever, and be like, you know, I try to do it XYZ, but I can see that this was the right thing to do, or this was the better choice, or you had the better idea, and I really appreciate that about you. That's why I married you. That's why I'm with you. Or that's one of the many reasons why I'm with you, is because of your good ideas that you have, okay? Or whatever, right? Like, when you assign that person the value that they really do have because you do care about their opinion, right? It's like you're just putting it out there on the table with like no shade, no nothing to hide, you know, like no arrogance, no nothing. And it makes for a much better like relationship, much ease and convenience moving through conflicts and situations, right? And not having to go in circles and irritating each other and driving each other crazy and exasperating the situation, possibly making the situation worse, taking the long route, going about everything the long way or whatever, and basically wasting time when you could be Netflixing and chilling, right? Like you could be up sitting Netflix and chilling or whatever, having a good time, but instead you got something to prove or whatever, and you want to take the long route, right? So I'm just saying, like, nobody's perfect, right, in a relationship, and nobody is going to be 100% right about XYZ. Nobody's ever going to be 100% right about, you know, doing this or doing that or right? Like nobody is going to actually be 100. Sorry, you know how I am. I gotta go. I gotta head out. So anyway, I'm always touching up. You know, that's just the life of an esthetician, a makeup artist. You know what I'm saying? But nobody's ever going to be 100% right. And if you're not 100%, like if you already know that, you already know, like, you might as well give the other person credit when credit is due, because all that does is going to bring you closer and make you feel like, you know, closer to each other and feel like you can trust each other and feel like, you know, like you love each other, like you can tell each other everything and that you won't feel judged. Now, if the person that you're dealing with, who you don't want to say I told you so to, really rubs it in your face, well, that makes the situation worse. And then you might want to talk about that. You might want to be like, look, I didn't want to come and tell you because I know how you rub things in my face, and then I wouldn't be able to live this down because you will drag me in the mud, or, you know, for hours and hours or days and days and days, and you will sit here and gloat. Okay, that's not right. Okay, women, that's not right. So ladies, if you do that and you want to get on your high horse and be like, I was right, and la 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 la, and kiss my feet, well, you know, you might like that, I don't know, but you know what I'm saying, you know, going around forever and ever making him like eat his words or whatever, like, nobody wants to deal with that. Like, nobody wants to deal with that. So you can't make a person feel like that. In fact, you should it should be an easy thing to accept, or you should easily, readily accept not only apologies and letting it go fast, like moving through it so that it's easier for the other person to do it, but also you can be an example of that by you easily offering apologies, and you were right, honey, and I see your point now, I should have never did blah 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 blah, like, or la la la, you were right about this, blah, you know, whatever. Okay, and the more you say that too, it's the same effect on him, right? So the easier two people can compliment each other in that way and are open and willing to give apologies or and accept when they were wrong, and to give that out or give credit where credit is due, the easier and the quicker you guys can you can get back to whatever the regularly scheduled program was, whether that was Netflix and chilling, making love, going out, hanging, having a good time, party, whatever, okay? Whatever is your thing, okay? Anyway, I'm just bringing that up because I know, like, that is something that literally women talk about all the time. Like, I kid you not. Especially the longer you've been married, and a woman will say, I just, to me, you can always tell when a man has been married for a long time and he's in a stable relationship because he has no problem carrying his wife's purse, holding the umbrella for her, opening a door for her, whatever. He has no problem, saying, I'm sorry, or I love you, I miss you, you were right, or whatever, or checking with her, or even checking in with her, right? I know a lot of men who, they go crazy over that. Like, they don't like that whole check-in thing. That, to me, all of that kind of stuff is like, if you have nothing to hide, then A, you shouldn't have a problem checking in. But B, all that does is build trust and love, honor, and just trust, a bond. That kind of stuff builds a bond. When a woman doesn't have to, call her man to be like, are you okay? Is everything, because a lot of us women, I mean, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us women don't want to sound controlling. We don't want to sound, and we don't want to, I know I don't want to have to say I told you so. I don't even want to have to say I told you so, right? But it's like, it's better if you have someone who has, who can let down his pride and be okay, and literally be okay to say, you are my better half. Like, you really are my better half. I have, I'm nothing without you, right? And when it's a really good relationship, she will say the same thing back. I mean, when it's a good relationship and you have that back and forth, the two of you will feel that way about each other and have no problem saying that, because it just builds love and unity and trust. So anyway, that's really all I wanted to mention today. I don't know. Let me see. Let me just type it in. Just see. Let me just see. I haven't checked to see. Okay. I'm just gonna see what AI says. Why are people afraid to say or hear "I told you so"? I just want to see what it. Let me just see. It says, people are often afraid to say "I told you so" because it is perceived as a smug, condescending, damaging to relationships, while hearing it can feel hurtful and confrontational. On the other hand, people fear hearing it because it can make them feel stupid, incompetent, judged, and especially when they already know they made a mistake. It is often an ego-driven phrase that focuses on who was right rather than solving the problem or maintaining a positive relationship. So you see, when the focus is on the ego or a person's ego, how they're perceived or how they look, when their focus is all on that and not on fixing the issue or the, maintaining positivity in the relationship, right? There's going to be a difference in how you handle hearing that or saying that, right? Okay, so it says reasons for fear of saying "I told you so." Okay, we already talked about that. It's perceived as arrogant, so it's a phrase that, yeah, it is very true. So you have to be careful as a woman. You have to be very careful about saying "I told you so," especially saying it all the time, as if to make yourself bigger in the relationship or bigger than the other person, even if it's like at work or something, right? Like it says, display of superiority, making you seem like you think the other person is stupid for not listening to you. That's ridiculous. Okay, and so it damages relationships. Using the phrase can be hurtful and passive aggressive, putting the other person on the defensive and creating unnecessary conflict. That's what I want to focus on. Unnecessary conflict. Because there will be conflict. There's going to be a conflict in every relationship. It's how you handle that conflict. Okay? And who needs extra conflict? Who wants extra conflict? So I think it's really good when a person can come out and just say, you were right, honey. I know you told me XYZ or whatever. To me, if a person says that, or if a guy says that, or whoever, then I don't have to say, I told you so. Because you're already saying it. Now I don't even have to say I told you so. You understand what I'm saying? Because I'm not coming from an arrogant place. So for me, I'm like, okay, well, the point has been made. Then I don't need to say I told you so. And also, it is not my goal to be like, I told you so. I mean, it is different when you're talking about like your brothers and sisters, or when you have that kind of like sibling rivalry with somebody, even if they're not your brother or sister. I understand that you know, that little competitiveness. I'm not talking about those playful kind of relationships or things. I'm talking about in like, you know, in a marriage or in boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, in a relationship, right? It says reasons for fear of hearing I told you so. It feels like a personal attack. Hearing it can feel like a verbal slap in the face, especially after a difficult experience, highlighting your mistakes rather than offering support. It can be humiliating. The phrase can be deeply embarrassing as it forces you to confront your failure and the fact that you didn't follow advice that was given. It makes you feel judged. It implies a judgment of your decision-making abilities, which can be hurtful and make you feel like you can't be trusted to make good choices. And lastly, it says it can feel condescending. The delivery can be smug and sharp, making you feel as though the other person is looking down on you. Alternative approaches. So honestly, I would hope that that is not anybody's goal in saying, I told you so. Like, that should not be, you know, your goal in a relationship is to say, I told you so. Especially if the man or the person has is willing to say I'm sorry, or is willing to let go of some humility and pride and everything, then you shouldn't be jumping at the opportunity of saying I told you so. Okay, because that we're not trying to make anybody feel like that. Like, that's not how you want to make anybody feel, right? That's the whole point. My hair is growing out. Ugh. So I'm gonna be going through that phase while wintertime comes, as I let my hair grow. Anyway, let's talk about these alternative approaches. It says focus on the solution instead of gloating. Use the opportunity to offer support and work towards a solution. For example, you could say, I'm sorry that happened. How can we fix it? Okay, I'm sorry that happened. How can we fix it, honey? Acknowledge your correct prediction calmly. You can state the facts without condescending tone. For example, you could say, I was concerned that this might happen based on X, Y, and Z. Yeah, I was concerned that might happen. I'm sorry you had to experience that. You know, I kind of felt like that might happen because of X, Y, Z. Now we know how to recognize such things. Okay. Reframe it as a learning moment, which is exactly what it is. View the situation as a chance to reinforce that your advice is valuable, not to prove you were right. You could say, I'm glad you're open to hearing my perspective. Let's see what we can do now. I'm glad you're open to hearing my perspective. Honey boo boo. Okay, so that's how, like, you can handle that. And I think that's really good. Really, it's a mark of a very good relationship when two people can easily go back and forth and easily be like, honey, you were right, baby, what you want to do? Or you were right, it was closed, the restaurant was closed, the store was closed, or you were right, they were, out of XYZ over there, I should have listened to you, and I wasted time, I'm sorry, honey, I love you, and let me go ahead and let's do this, and this, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's the everyday kind of scenarios, right? Everyday kind of scenarios. Okay, so just, don't be so, like, against saying I'm sorry and honey, you were right. And also, don't be condescending or try to come off as being, Mrs. Smarty Pants or always right by saying, I told you so. You should have listened to me the first time. Okay, that is annoying, and nobody wants to deal with that in a wife or a relationship, right? So we got to be careful not to be condescending or sound disrespectful. Use whatever moment it is as a learning moment and move through it fast and as quick as possible so you can get back to whatever the regular scheduled program was, right? Okay, All right, that was it. I'm trying to keep the videos shorter. Like, I be trying, but sometimes I just talk too much. But anyway, bye.